The Honorable Commissioner has already dwelled on the call for enhanced emergency preparedness. And my own aspect is going to look at COVID-19, the clinical presentation, then the issue of protecting ourselves. Number one thing, when you talk of any novel organism, it means it's a new organism. What we mean by a new organism that we've not encountered it in the past. There's no diagnostic platform. Therapy is not available. Vaccine is also not available. When COVID-19 was first announced, by then, there was no therapy at all. Even up to now, there are so many about 75 clinical trials ongoing, looking at how best to treat COVID-19. Coronaviruses, they're a large family of virus. And why do we call them corona? Because of all these spikes that they have on their surfaces. It looks like that of a crown. So corona is from crown. So coronavirus is someone that looks like a crown. And this is a beta coronavirus. It's the illness ranges from the common cold that all of us normally have to severe one that MERS-CoV, SARS, that we know in time past have killed people. They are also zoonotic. That's another thing that we should know about them. Next slide. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Corona, I've already spoken about this one so that we'll be able to move on. Next slide. What are the signs of infection? Fever, headache, feeling of being unwell, sore throat, cough. All of us are familiar with everything. But in the more severe cases, infection can cause pneumonia, severe acute respiratory disease, kidney failure, and even death. And the ranges of clinical presentation varies. The mild one is about 81%. Severe cases is about 15%, 14%. Critical one about 4%, then death about 2.3 to 3%. The critical one will require intensive care units. The intensive care unit in Nigeria, when you look at it, when we're trying to do an audit of the intensive care units in Nigeria, we don't have up to 100 intensive care units in the whole of Nigeria. And the total capacity of the intensive care units in Nigeria is not up to 500. It's not up to 500. The total capacity is not up to 500. And for those critical cases, they will need intensive care units. Some will need dialysis, but we don't get dialysis. So this is just a pictorial representation of the symptoms and signs of 2019 nCoV before it was now called COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. Yes, next slide, please. The total confirmed as of this morning is 119,132. As of this morning, and total death 4,284. Those that have recovered 65,776 have recovered. And the spread all over the world. All over the world. The bigger the circle that is telling you greater than 5,000 to 20,000 cases, 2,000 cases, 1 to 5. Africa now, we have so many countries. Most of our neighboring countries now have cases. Togo, Cameroon, Algeria, South Africa. Most of them now have cases. The whole of Europe. Cyprus was the last to come on board. So the whole of Europe have cases, depending, which varies. Italy is on total lockdown until the 3rd of April. There's restriction of movement, no school, nothing like that. For you to move at all, it has to be because of reason for work or because you want to do a certain thing that you'll be cleared for. So until the 3rd of April, it's going to start on Monday and it's going to end on the 3rd of April. So the whole of Italy is on total lockdown. China now, in the past 48, 72 hours, the number of cases have reduced significantly. Outside the Hubei province, no new cases. In the Hubei province, that's where they are still having some new cases. But in Europe is now having the brunt. Yesterday, one of the most popular breaking news was the case of the health minister of Britain coming down with COVID-19, testing positive to COVID-19. If the health minister is infected, it means anybody can get infected. And you can move on to the next slide. Next slide is just talking about the spread. Next slide. Now, this is Africa. We have so many people under investigation. Some have cases. Nigeria, we already have cases. Though the cases they are doing, the cases are well. Let's move on to the next slide. This is just the spread for Africa for now. But I know by today or tomorrow, it's going to probably move up, depending on most cause. Let's face the reality. Let's face the reality. I told people that in January, when everybody was worried, When everybody was worried, I said we shouldn't be worried then, that it's on February and March that we're going to see our own climbing. When people start coming from all the other places they've gone to, when they start coming back, that's when we are going to see our own cases. So we're just starting. We are just at the beginning of our own outbreak. I know you will not accept, but that's just the situation. Those who are currently ill are about 40%. 56.6% have recovered. 3.5% are dead as of 9th of March 2020. Yes, next slide. We heard more about coronavirus, much more than HIV, SARS, MERS, Ebola, everything, because now, at least, the world is more social media friendly, so the news is getting more and more every day. Next slide, please. These slides are from a site, infographics, so you can easily go there, and the whole slide are there. They update it on daily basis. Now, those who are more prone are those with cardiovascular diseases, diabetic, chronic respiratory disease, abnormally high blood pressure, those with cancer, and those others with no existing condition are very small. How contagious and deadly is it? COVID-19 transmission is about 1.5 to 3.5, and fatality rate is 0.7 to 3.4%. So when you look at others, measles is still much more highly contagious, norovirus much more highly contagious, chickenpox. But the problem is that it's a novel virus. It's new. We don't have any treatment for it. So and you can see the spread all over the world, right from China to Europe to Asia, only Antarctica now. I mean, that's the only place that has not gotten, and because that is very, very cold, people don't normally go there. But definitely, I'm sure they will soon record 1 or 2 cases there. I'm telling you the truth. Let's move on. That place is a cold environment. So let's move on to the next slide. Next slide. Those aged 60 and above are more at risk. They are more at risk. And the middle age group, they tend to survive more. It's the elderly that we tend to see. And you can see that most of the predisposing factors are more in the elderly. So next slide, please, sir. These are the disease deaths per day worldwide. Coronavirus is just 56. Meanwhile, from tuberculosis, we have 3,000 plus. Hepatitis B, more than 2,400. Pneumonia, 2,200. Malaria, more than 2,000 deaths per day worldwide. But why are we saying coronavirus? Because the tendency for it to spread. The WHO Director General has been warning us for the past 3 or 4 weeks that countries with low resource countries should go and put their system in place so that as much as possible we are able to contain, because we do not have the facility to treat. We do not have the facility to treat. What is expected of us, low resource countries or misappropriated resource countries, is to make sure we are able to contain, so that as soon as you see a case, you contain. So you don't have to, because we don't have the capacity to support. If anybody to get into ICU in Lasut, where I'm also a consultant, the ICU in medical emergency is 4-bedded or 5-bedded. CCU has about 6 beds. For you to enter CCU, maybe you pay about 2 million naira because it's a public-private facility. The ICU normally you spend an average of 200 to 300,000 naira per day. So I don't know how many people will be able to do that. The other facilities in Lagos that are private, for you to even enter, you drop just about 2 million naira. So, and the total capacity, bed capacity for ICU in Lagos is not up to 100 or 150. The total bed capacity for ICU in the whole of Lagos State is not up to 150. So let's move on to the next slide. This is fatality rate varies by country. Let's move on. How do I know that this person has COVID-19? This is just a flow chart. Consider COVID-19 a patient with any of the following: fever, cough, shortness of breath. Then high risk travel or exposure. When we look at the case definition, you understand what I mean by high risk travel or case definition. The case definition is evolving every day. When it first started, a person who came from Wuhan. Later, he became any traveler from China. Now, he became any person from China and any country with established ongoing community transmission. Now, it is it has gone even beyond that to people who have visited countries where there is an ongoing community transmission and has visited healthcare facilities there. And gradually, you look at it, how many people are we going to quarantine if we are going to quarantine? Because almost every country in Europe now has been affected. Half of the cases in Africa came from Italy. People who went to Italy or came directly from Italy. So then America has our own. There are some, they have clusters everywhere. New York, Washington, California, and those are huge states. New York alone, you know how huge New York is. Washington, California, so all of them have their cases. Just this morning, another state recorded our first case, and everybody are putting in measures. Some have already declared state of emergency. So it's spreading. So when you look at then the epidemiology link is very, very important. Did you travel in the past 2 or 3 weeks to any country where there has been exposure, and where there has been there's ongoing COVID-19, or you visit healthcare facility there? Then what did the person do there? The person is supposed to self-isolate for about 14, for a minimum of 14 days, supervised self-isolation. That is what we are doing presently. Then the epidemiological link is very, very crucial. But there are one or two cases that we have seen in the world that we could not really see. They are asymptomatic. That the index person happened to be asymptomatic and has been able to infect other 4 people. So the 4 people came down with the full-blown illness, but that person remained asymptomatic until she became negative. So that is why it is an evolving organism. We've not fully understood the pathogenesis. So for everybody, we have to be prepared to protect ourselves and follow instructions. And there are so many investigations you have to do to be sure of what you are really dealing with. You can move to the next slide. What are the implications for economy? If we are not careful, in the next 2-3 weeks, the economy of the whole world will come to a standstill completely. Yesterday alone, 203 billion naira was lost on the New York Stock Exchange. That they had to stop trading. They had to stop, I think, about between day before yesterday and yesterday, they had to stop trading for about 3 or 4 times. That we are not going to trade at all because stocks were just falling. Now, resources to most of the world, we've depended on China for a long time because of cheap labor. I was following a news report and it said for this year, December, there's going to be massive shortage of toys in the United States because 80% of toys is coming from China. Your phone, everything that you are using is from China. So if you have any phone that you have now, take care of it very, very well. Sports, it has already affected sports. Arsenal, the whole team of Arsenal is under quarantine now. They went to play with Olympiacos and they met with the owner of Olympiacos and they shook hands and it became positive of COVID-19. So the match that was supposed to take place today between Arsenal and Man City has been postponed because all the players of Arsenal are under quarantine. Conferences have been postponed. ECME that was supposed to take place this year has been postponed. That is the Economic Community, European Conference on Infectious Disease for this year has been postponed. Everybody that has registered is supposed to link remotely from every country where you are. Now, what is the case definition? I've already said you travel to China or any country with report of continuous transmission. Then close contact with a confirmed case, exposure to healthcare facilities in a country where hospital-associated COVID-19 infections have been reported. Probable case is suspect where you have imaging features of pneumonia, normal or reduced white blood cell count, and the rest. So, and how do we test? We take our nasopharyngeal swab, oropharyngeal swab, or sputum. Then we are able to do our real-time PCR, and we are able to do it. Let's move on. Then, how do we protect ourselves? Knowing fully well we don't have the drug, we don't have the particular drug as of now. What we have now are drugs on trials. There are so many drugs on trials. We've used antiretroviral, anti-inflammatory agents. All of them are being used. So the best thing is to protect ourselves. Standard precautions. There are measures that you take to protect yourself from contact with fluid, body fluid from other people, so that you don't get infected. And let's move on. And what does it mean? No, it is to protect us and the patient, and to protect the community as well. Wherever care is delivered from contact with infectious agents, to be used all the time, whether infection is known or not, and in order to prevent infection in patients and staff and the community. I always tell people in every hospital facility that if you don't wash your hand, if you don't do proper infection prevention and control, you are going to take it home. And I've seen families, members of families of healthcare workers coming down with infections that are multi-drug resistant. And we want to see that well, you are the one that took it home to the child. And that is why children of healthcare workers tend to use high-end antibiotics instead of the normal drug, because most of the infection were brought from the hospital home. Most of us, we use the same clothes that we use for work. That's the same clothes we carry home. Meanwhile, we're supposed to use scrubs or lab coats and everything within the hospital, but we don't. Hand washing, we don't occasionally, most of the time. Now, maybe I think we are now beginning to wash hands much more than before. Let's move on. What are those things that we can use to prevent or limit transmission? Number one, triaging. Triaging means you are going to separate those who are infected from those who you don't think are infected. So for our hospital facilities, the first thing that for anybody coming that has cough and fever, separate from all the other people. That is the first thing. Anybody cough, fever, separate from other people, and give a face mask to the person to wear. Once the person wears face mask, that is source control. Everything that is coming from the person stays in the face mask, so the person is not going to infect everybody in that place. So triage is very, very crucial. Then we should implement standard precautions for all patients. Droplet and contact precautions are additional one. The environmental and engineering controls. The normal design of hospital is for there to be maximum air exchanges. When you look at UCH, you see that the walls are very wide. There's no person that will be admitted in UCH that will complain of heat, because there's cross ventilation all the time. The World Health standard is that 10% of your building must be windows. Now, what we do is that we make them windows, but it's now aluminum. That aluminum, pane, and the rest. And by the time you are open, it's only 5% or 4% that you are really getting here into the room. So, though it's still 10%, but the air that is coming in is not really much. And cross ventilation is a thing that we've thrown to the. We are not even concerned about cross ventilation again. And those are issues that you have to look at, environmental and engineering controls. Let's move on. Personal protective equipment is very, very crucial. Hand hygiene, washing your hand. Make sure you clean your hands all the time. PPE. People always say we don't have PPE. And I'll ask them, what is PPE? Personal protective equipment. Your hand glove is a PPE. Your face mask is one. But what people want is for them to wear the full asthma suit. And I always tell them, you don't need it. Personal protective equipment use is based on risk assessment. So prevention of needle stick injury is very, very important. Our waste disposal, proper waste segregation at the point of use. Whosoever generated the waste, segregate the waste. Then waste disposal is very, very crucial. Environmental cleaning and disinfection. Cleaning and disinfection of patient care equipment. Stethoscope, like for COVID-19, for every patient of COVID-19, they must have their own dedicated stethoscope. So we are not supposed to move the stethoscope in between patients. And even for normal care, you are supposed to disinfect your stethoscope. Respiratory hygiene and cough etiquette, which I'm going to dwell more on. These are just standard precautions. There are organisms everywhere, and they are seen. This is a newborn baby, and this is the caregiver. And we are able to find organisms on all this monitor. You know, once the monitor is beeping, what will she do? She will mute it. Next slide. So we are able to get organisms from all these places, because normally, if whatever you are doing, if you have to do any other thing, you remove your gloves, you perform hand hygiene before you move on to the next thing. Most of them I go to hospitals and people are wearing gloves and their phone will ring and they dip their hands in their pocket and bring out the phone and they will answer the call and return it back and continue what they are doing. The only time, and hear it very well, the only time you are permitted to touch your phone with your gloved hand is when you know that you are going to perform hand hygiene on yourself after you finish your work. Then after you've performed hand hygiene on yourself, on your hand, you wash your hand, then you pick the phone too and you wash it. So if you know you are not going to use, if you know you are not going to clean your phone, you are not going to wash your phone, then you are not permitted. You are not permitted to touch your phone with gloved hands. Let's move on to the next slide. Direct contact, next one. Person to person transmission when touching a person, touching face, mucous membranes and the rest. I always ask people, who told you that your hand is a thermometer? And for patient who come, patient will say, I have fever. The next thing that we will touch. Your hand is not a thermometer. Let's move on. Now, for every time a person coughs, 0 to 3,500 organisms are expelled. 0 to 3,500. And if you have ever moved near a person who is so blessed that it causes showers of blessings to flow from him whenever he's talking to people. You know people like that. That occasionally you have to move back whenever they are talking to you because they will just bath you every time. Because of the spirituals and everything that will be coming. So all the organisms will definitely come to you. Now yes, move on to the next slide. What happened to those droplets? Some are very tiny, less than 5 microns. And those ones, they will, greater than 5 microns. Those ones are droplets. And they will drop about 3 feet maximum. They cannot travel more than 3 feet and drop to the floor tangentially. COVID-19 is by droplet transmission and contact. It is not airborne. It is by droplet transmission. So easily, if I stay about 1.5 meters from a patient without wearing face mask and anything, I can talk to the person. So for every patient you are seeing, that distance from here to where the person handling the system is just about almost 2 meters. I can still talk to him. If he wants to move closer, there are ways in which you talk. Oh, just sit down. I don't want you to stress yourself. It has to do with, you see, the problem is that more often than not, we have to learn what we call reverse psychology. Please sit down. You don't have to stress yourself. I've been involved in screening so many patients with Ebola, Lassa, everything. I work in the Ebola Treatment Center in 2014. I'm working in the COVID-19 team and everything. Just sit down there. Don't worry. Don't stress. I know you are under stress. I know people have been running away from you. Just sit down. I want you to maintain yourself. And you'll calm the patient down. Then you tell me, look, I'm going to give you a face mask. But because you may have an infection, and I've been seeing so many patients, I'm going to wear a face mask. I'm going to wear a goggle. I'm going to wear a gown. Then my face mask. My gloves. Then I will now give the face mask to the patient. I protected myself. Even while moving to the patient, even if he coughs, I'm already protected. But the patient will not feel somehow. So with that, once I give the face mask to him and he covers himself, covers his face, his nose and mouth, then that is source control. But we see a person coughing and said, oh yeah, take face mask. The person will feel bad. And more often than not, the patient will remove the face mask. You remember a case of one that happened in China. The person removed the face mask and spat on the nurse and said, if I'm going to die, we are going to die too. All of us are going to die. So we have to use reverse psychology in handling them. So let's move on to that of airborne, small droplets. And small droplets, they don't drop very fast. They can stay in the room for up to 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. Tuberculosis happens to be one of them. But COVID-19 is not by airborne. It is by droplets. It's by droplets. Let's move on. Hand hygiene, very, very important. Very, very effective. Next slide. So you must wash your hand. If you are using alcohol-based hand rubs, 20 to 30 seconds, and you make sure you rub, and you follow the same procedure that you use for hand washing. You follow the same procedure. Let's move on. Whether you're using hand rub or soap and water, it must be the same thing. Next, wash your hand when visibly soiled. Most of the time, people will use hand sanitizer. The next time you have the opportunity to wash your hands, you must wash your hands. Most of the hand sanitizer are bitter. I know from experience because I've sanitized my hand occasionally, and I now have to take maybe apple and the rest, and you taste it, it's bitter. So that means though it has reduced the load, it has not really removed everything completely. So hand washing, you must still do. Good technique is very, very important. Then good respiratory hygiene. You know, people will just blow their nose and everything, and there will still be spatters everywhere. And we use the same hanky every time. So for now, we've discovered the use of the same handkerchief, the white handkerchief or whatever color that you always put, maybe for mopping, for cleaning, drying sweat and the rest. But when it comes to respiratory hygiene, once you use it and you blow your nose or you sneeze into it, you have to dispose it immediately. Reason is that once I use it, I put it back in my pocket. I have loads. My hands are contaminated. The next time I sneeze again, I increase the load. Then as much as many people that I'm shaking their hands, I am distributing it to them. So what we expected is disposable napkins, serviette, all of them are readily available. You blow into it, you dispose, and you perform hand washing. Then okay, why do we isolate? Is to protect ourselves, protect your patients, and protect the community. So once you maintain that distance, you are able to, be protected. Just move on. Next one. Cover the nose and mouth when coughing or sneezing. Cough into elbow gesture. Into the elbow. And that is what we are advocating now, not into our hand. If you cough into your hand, more often than not, we don't perform hand hygiene. So it's to the elbow. And there are so many ways in which you can perform. There are about 3 or 4 ways. Even if you are wearing short sleeve, you can still be able to cough into it and protect others. And you must perform hand hygiene after it. Encourage persons, coughing people to be seated away from others in common waiting areas, ideally at least 3 feet from others, or ask them to wait outside. Please, can you come outside and wait? Because you see, those people inside, I don't know the kind of infection they have, but you have respiratory tract infection, your lungs are not that strong, and I don't want them to infect you the more. So come outside and stay outside. So that where you have fresh breath, fresh air all the time, they will willingly go outside. So droplet precaution is very important. Place patients in single room. Unfortunately, most of our hospitals, we don't have single room. Single room are looked at as luxury. We look at it as luxury for people who are highly placed, who are able to pay. And meanwhile, they are very, very essential when we want to prevent infection within the hospital. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So for droplet precautions, hand hygiene before and after contact. So which means then after that, you wear your face mask, then your goggles or visors or face shield. And okay, let's move on to the next one. Dedicated equipment, airborne, the same thing, but you use N95. But in COVID-19, for a health worker, if you are going to suction the patient, you are going to intubate, you are going to do any form of laryngoscope or resuscitation, anything, you must wear N95 because you are going to generate aerosols. Next one, please. No. Next. The general WHO advice, avoid close contact with people suffering from acute respiratory infection or unprotected contact with those with fever. Keep 2 meters away. Frequent hand hygiene is very, very important. People with symptoms of acute respiratory infection should be taught to practice respiratory etiquette. When you visit a health facility, then avoid home treatment. Avoid unprotected contact with farm or wild animals, their blood and body fluid. Eat well-cooked animal food. At least we are lucky in Nigeria, we eat well-cooked animal food, unlike some place that they eat anything. Then, what should you do to protect yourself? Learn respiratory hygiene and teach others to do the same. Teach everybody to cough into their elbow. Learn to wash your hands often. Stop picking your nose. Some people cannot put their hands from their nose. Keep some distance between yourself and anyone who has a respiratory illness. When I was going to Congo Brazzaville, there was an empty seat in between me and the next passenger. And suddenly he coughed about twice. I had this wrap around myself that because of the cold. So I just cover my head and just cover my nose and everything. And the person that we were traveling with came to me and said, "Okay." I said, "What did I do?" He said, "You are protected." I said, "I have to protect myself." Because the person was coughing occasionally, but I knew it was not really COVID because I knew. but still, I had to protect myself. Let's move on. Then beware of false information and recommendation on the internet. That's what we call idiot syndrome. Internet-derived information that obstruct treatment. Idiot syndrome. Beware of idiot syndrome. There are so many now. Oh, boil garlic, use garlic. When it comes to using ginger and garlic, the Asians are at uppermost when it comes to eating garlic and ginger, and yet we have the largest and the highest number of infection there. So please let us be beware of internet-derived information. There's so many, and they always come in a way in which you think they are authentic. The person will introduce himself as a professor in one university, and the first 4 lines will be reasonable. You look at, this person is talking, then you will now slot in another information that is total garbage and finish it with a reasonable information. So yes. So please, let's beware of them, please. And do not, even if somebody forward it to you, kindly go back, revert back to that person and say, can you please confirm this by giving me the source? I always tell people, so people don't forward things to me, because I'll just refer back to them. Please, the source, please. And then somebody forwarded. I say, if somebody forwarded things to you, are you supposed to forward it? So please don't forward fake information, rumors, and the rest. Then do not wear a medical mask all over the place. If you are healthy, you are not supposed to wear a face mask. You are not supposed to wear a face mask. And that was the problem with all of us. Because we had that was a case. Everybody went to every pharmacy and everywhere and bought all the face masks. If you are not sick, you are not expected to wear a face mask. You are not giving care to a person with respiratory infection. You are not expected to wear a face mask. There must be a history of recent travel within the last 14 days with symptoms, and do not stereotype and think that, once you see any Chinese man, COVID. No. I told people before we had our first case that it's not going to be an Asian that is going to bring you to Nigeria. And I came out to be right at the end of the day. But the person that brought it was from another country, Italy. For those who didn't return from areas with COVID-19, practice self-isolation and social distancing for 14 days. Self-isolation is compulsory. Supervise self-isolation. For people who are not ready to do that, we've gotten to a level now in which anybody that breaks the rule, we will bring into our isolation center. For the whole 14 days. I'm sure the person will not be comfortable. Because it cannot be as comfortable as being in your own home. So please, anybody that you know that's just returned, just tell the person, have you observed the 14-day isolation? If the person has not, please tell your state epidemiologist. The state epidemiologist know what to do. Next slide. This is the alert lines for Lagos State. This one is not for your state, so you don't need it here. Next slide, please. Thank you very much.